Welcome to the kitchen and the wonderful world of, oh my God, what am I gonna eat? Okay, we're talking about meal prep. Meal prep is a terrible phrase and I do not like it. It's a diet culture phrase that means we're just gonna cook and prepare our food. And that's something we do every day if we're kind of trying to be healthy, right? Okay, so the reason you want to meal prep is not necessarily to get shredded, to lose weight. It's actually just to save time during your week. So these are processes that we utilize to help us with our time when we're running around with kids, when we're trying to get to work, when we're late to a ball game. I'm kind of always late to a ball game. So those are the things necessary to do that. So when you're undergoing this whole process, you guys have most of these things in your kitchen already. Everybody has aluminum foil, right? You need an olive oil, you need some type of an herb, all-purpose seasoning, ta-da. Black pepper. This is just a steak and chop. Sea salt and a spray. Does not matter the brand, doesn't matter any of that, just as long as it's in a staple. We have a spatula, we have a metal spatula, we have tongs and a sharp knife that you can cut things with. Guys, I prefer a metal spatula because you can scrape something off a pan. A rubber spatula just does not do the same. Bowls, it doesn't matter, they don't have to be pretty. And then as far as you know, everybody has an oven. And ladies, if you can push a button to start your car, I promise you can push a button to turn on an oven. Watch. All right, look, and an air fryer. If everybody doesn't have one of those, that's a great thing to add to your life. And also, nothing like a microwave. Okay, so now talk about the menu, right? Okay, you need probably 2 meats and 2 vegetables that you can survive on for about 3 days. Meal prep food's gonna keep for 3 days. Meat will usually stay for 5. And that just depends on how you store it. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But 2 starches, 2 vegetables, and 2 meats. So take your pick, and then we're gonna get cooking. Here are the vegetables that we're gonna use today and cook. And I want you guys to zoom in and look at these brands and packages, because shout out to Publix. This is where all this stuff came from. You can get it at Walmart. So what I'm gonna do for any pan, I'm just gonna spray it a little bit. Just a little bit, just because I don't want stuff to actually stick. Pick vegetables that you enjoy, that you would prefer. Look, there you go, that's that easy. Now I'm gonna cook one pan at a time, and I'm also gonna use olive oil as just a little bit. Or you can do that. That's really okay. Then you take your salt and pepper. If you like more salt, you can add more salt. If you don't wanna salt anything ahead of time at all, leave it plain, leave it bland. Okay, so first one up, we're going in the oven. So that's gonna cook fast. So in about 10 minutes, the first one's gonna be finished. All right guys, this is one of my favorite alternatives for a carb, okay? Most of you guys have heard of cauliflower. Well, this is riced cauliflower. So you can get this is in the produce section. You can buy it frozen. It doesn't quite come out as nice, but I like to use it with peppers, and I'll just saute this on the stove top. So if you notice, I'm meal prepping, right? So I already put this in the oven. I put the green beans in there for 10 minutes. And now I know when I started, I'm dumping this in. I haven't even turned this on yet, okay? These are little tri-peppers. They're also in the produce. I don't have to measure or chop anything on that part, but I'm gonna put them all together. I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the vegetables with the olive oil. Drizzle it, and I'm going to turn it on, okay? Everybody's oven and stove are different. If you know yours cooks really fast, pick a medium heat and let it just kind of simmer, and it's really fine. You're not gonna kill it. So I'm gonna walk away, and then I'm gonna come back and fix this and put some salt and pepper and just stir it up. So as you can see, this is a multi-faceted process, okay? So I'm doing a lot of things at once, which you guys do all the time anyway. So just apply that to the kitchen. So I'm checking on my green beans. They're not quite finished, so I'm letting that continue to cook. But now I'm gonna cut potatoes, because I'm gonna take one thing out of the oven and one thing's gonna be ready to go in. So we're gonna cut potatoes. You guys can cut them in circles. You can leave the peel on. And I like to cut them sometimes just in little cubes. It makes them cook faster, okay? Sometimes I cook them in sticks and they look like french fries. It just depends on your preference and how much time I've got and what kind of a hurry I'm in. And then I like to put them in a bowl and mix cinnamon and sea salt and pepper and let that go. Now let's talk about containers for a second. No, they don't have to be the elaborate ones you order or anything like that. Guys, like you have one guess where these containers came from. Have you ever heard of Hillshire sandwich meat? Ha! My dad eats a sandwich every day and eats several. So therefore my mom saves these for me. So I have tons of these, and this is what I'm gonna use for my meals. I can use my tongs, literally do that, okay? And there are particular stipulations to how you want to cool food before you put it in the refrigerator. But for me, while I'm cooking everything at once, I pretty much leave it sitting out. And then by the time I'm ready to put it in containers for meals or just to put it up, it's pretty much cool, okay? So you technically don't want to, you do not want to close up the container while it's steaming, okay? You want to let it cool a little bit. So I'm gonna take now the potatoes and put them on the pan that, yes, just came out of the oven. And that's my potatoes. Just spread them out, separate them out. You kind of want to make a whole flat row. That way they just cook evenly, okay? And then we're gonna leave this oven on broil because no joke, guys, I cook most everything on broil. And we're gonna do that again. So I'm watching for the same thing on the oven. How the green beans got a little bit crisp and you can see a little bit of a singe to them. That means they're cooked well, okay? And if you like crispy green beans, cook them longer, okay? All right, so now I'm gonna do something that's just gonna be kind of for an extra because I only have 1 pack of ground beef. I thought I had more, but you know what? Work with what you've got, okay? That's what you have to do sometimes. So we have 1 package of meat. I'm gonna cut that open and I'm gonna put that in the same pan that I cooked the cauliflower rice in. Okay, so I'm just gonna dump the meat from the package in here and I'm gonna brown it. And so, well, I think I'm gonna try to release it. So, we're gonna brown the meat and I'm gonna let that just simmer, and once it gets cooked, I'm gonna add some vegetables to it, and then all I have to do to that is add some rice, and I've got a real easy meal. And sometimes that's necessary. You don't wanna actually fix a whole plate. So I'm gonna turn that on again and I just wanna brown it. So I'm gonna probably put that on about a medium heat and just kind of let it go. If it's not cooking fast enough for me, I'll turn it up. So this is all still, stay with me, the multitasking. I've got 10 minutes left on my chicken. I've probably got at least 10 minutes left on my potatoes. I've got rice cooked, I've got green beans, and now I'm gonna do Brussels sprouts. If you hate Brussels sprouts, don't buy them. Pick another one, okay? So all I'm gonna do for this, using the same knife, I'm cutting these in half. If they're super big, I'm gonna cut them into thirds, and I'm gonna do all that and cut them and put them in the bowl, toss them with a little bit of olive oil, sea salt, black pepper, and then we're gonna put those, guess where? In the oven, where everything else went, okay? So those are gonna broil also. Okay, so Brussels sprouts chopped will go in a bowl. And then this is where you have options. If you like butternut squash, this is a great little thing in the produce section also. It says microwavable, but you know, I don't prefer the microwave. So I'll mix it in with the Brussels sprouts. So I'll mix that. And then sea salt. And what you can do if you like also, and I don't have any on hand right now, you can do dried cranberries and put that with those, and that's really good, okay? So I'm gonna drizzle that. Maybe a little much, but it's okay. Sea salt, and that's waiting. So checking on the meat, because it's still browning. Back across, look, spatula. I already used it, but that's what we're doing, we're cooking, so we're gonna use it. Break the meat up, let it brown. This is ground beef. If you prefer to use ground chicken or ground turkey, both of those are great alternatives, and I would use either of those to make a turkey burger or a chicken burger, but you'll have to like stay tuned for a later video to see that recipe, okay? So this is what we're working with right now. Most of it's brown, so what I wanna do, because I want my vegetables to cook also, I'm gonna go ahead and put the vegetables in. This is just a vegetable slaw. It's got carrots and cabbage and broccoli. All of these little bag things are in the produce section. Pick just the kind that you like. And then you can just mix it, because what it's gonna do is cook down and it will kind of get soft and cook with the rest of that meat. So I'll let that sit for just a minute, and I think our chicken is almost done. Looks done to me. So while that's cooling, we'll take it out, and I'll just usually open the door and let it sit. Brussels sprouts and my butternut squash. So I want to do that, salt and pepper, and then I'll put that. And sometimes this is also, guys, if you want it, these cook a little bit longer because it's more of a dense vegetable. So my potatoes are almost done. I'm going to put these underneath so they can at least start getting heat. And then when my potatoes are finished, I'll bring them back out and I'll switch the pan out, okay? Really like asparagus. That's something that you probably want to eat early. Don't make yourself sick and try to eat asparagus 3 days after you cooked it, because that's not good for anybody. So cook this and eat this soon in the week. I usually just chop the ends off. And these are fantastic. You will literally microwave them for 90 seconds, and a half of a bag is a serving. So that will go in your container when you're lining all this stuff up, okay? So I've got my chicken and I've got some containers, and what I'm gonna do is go ahead and divide up a few meals. But I want you guys to notice, and this is where you get real picky. If you're just trying to eat to be healthy and just wanna make food easy, don't worry about a food scale. If you're actually wanting to eat a certain amount and you're trying to find grams of protein, you need a food scale for that reason. So what I'm gonna do is just put the chicken on here and I'm just gonna weigh it. If you wanna zoom in, check it out, that's 2.5, okay? So that's only 2.5 ounces. So I wanna make it at least 5 for me, so that's only 4.7. Okay, well, I'm close. That's good enough for right now. I would maybe put one more, chop it in half, but that's there. Well, I'm gonna microwave this, put a half of this, and I'm pretty down to a science. When I tell you guys a handful of vegetables, literally, like if I were to pick up a handful of green beans, that would be my serving for that meal, okay? So a handful pretty much in each one, unless you have gargantuan hands. Ladies, we don't, so that's really what you wanna use each time. Okay, the potatoes are ready. So they are nice and brown and crispy. I prefer them a little more crispy. And remember, we put the Brussels sprouts on the bottom, so now I'm gonna put those to the top and let them continue to cook until they are brown. Now the potatoes are one thing that can get you in trouble, so you want to weigh those also, not necessarily just use a measuring cup. So I'm gonna weigh those in just a second. I'm gonna let them cool so they don't burn me alive. And then I'm gonna finish these containers and show you what the whole process looks like at the end. So now I'm gonna weigh the potatoes, and this is when you need your handy dandy metal spatula that I've been bragging about, because they kind of stick a little bit. And you can put aluminum foil if you want to, but that's up to you. Okay, so I'm gonna turn my scale on, and I am gonna weigh my potatoes because I do wanna make sure that I get the right amount of those. So if you are a lady, we're trying to eat about 4 to 5 ounces, so that's 4.1, so that's pretty good. So I'm gonna pick them up, ooh, burning. And then you can see, it pretty much fits in your hand, okay? So that's kind of where I know when I get good at this, I won't need the food scale because I can pretty much grab a handful and then put them on there, okay? So I've got 2 different types of meals here. I've got rice with my green beans and chicken. I've got my chicken and my potatoes and green beans, and then I've got my ground beef with my vegetables and rice, okay? So I've still got things to do. I'm gonna cook more chicken, I'm gonna cook some chicken burgers, and I'm gonna put the broccoli, and I've got the Brussels sprouts. So all of these things go into about, like I said, 3 or 4 days, depending on who all's eating the food that you're cooking, okay? So when you get really good at this, you can wrap it up in about 2 hours, but it may take you a little bit longer in the beginning, but that's okay because it's trial and error. And once you find the vegetables and things you like, then it's easy for you, okay? So this is kind of where we're gonna wrap it up today. If you wanna talk about breakfast, and we wanna talk about some other meals, we can do that later. That's a whole nother ballgame, guys. Thank you for watching this.